Hi everybody, this is Joe. Um, if you're wondering, yes, I am walking very slowly on a treadmill. And yes, I am staring at a computer screen trying to debug a DB2 stored procedure that is giving me all sorts of pain. But that is not why I'm talking to you. I wanted to say one last word about two things. One is religion, theology, faith. Actually, that's three things, but it's all kind of one in my model. And the other is science. It seems like I keep saying the same things over and over and over again, and nobody really reads it. And so my wrists are kind of hurting tonight, and as bad as I look on camera, I thought I would rather record this and have you not watch it than type it and have you not read it. So that's kind of why it's being recorded. So about faith and science. As with most things, it seems to boil down probably a bit too far, but boil down to creation and evolution. And so I want to start from the faith side. Before I had ever encountered evolution in the science class, I remember thinking, gosh, I'm not sure that this story makes any sense. You can read through the first couple chapters of Genesis and you'll see a few things that jump out at you. One is that the sky is a vault that is placed between two sets of water, and that the sun, moon, and stars are hung in the sky between the two waters. Okay, maybe it was exactly like that, but I have trouble picturing that based on what I think I know about the world today. But really even more important is the creation of man. Essentially, if you boil that story down, and I'm going to add a few things that I was kind of taught in Sunday school, because this is what I remember thinking when I was 11 years old, right? All-powerful, all-knowing God is going to create human beings, and he's going to put them in a garden, knowing that they're curious, and that they're smart, and that they want to get smarter, and that they're vulnerable to temptation. And he loves them. He is benevolent, loves them to death, right? He's going to put them in the garden, and smack in the middle of the garden, he's going to place temptation. The tree of the forbidden fruit, right? He's going to provide them with infinite time, because remember, death hadn't entered the world yet, right? Death was a result of sin, per, again, what I was taught in Sunday school, per the Bible. So they're going to live forever. He's going to give them infinite time, access to sin, and as if that wasn't enough, a tempter. Right? This tempter is allowed to be there. Again, when you have an omnipotent God, you can't give him a pass on too many things. If he is omnipotent, he must have known the tempter was there, right? So essentially the story that I was taught is that omnipotent, loving God puts human beings in a garden. Smack in the middle of the garden, he places temptation. Then he gives them infinite time and a tempter. And when the whole thing falls down, he kind of walks in and says, whoa, didn't see that coming. Guess I better curse all mankind and the entire earth for it. And I'm sorry, I know that sounds a little snarky. But when you think about it, it's like, really? You really think that? Oh, and what was this horrible fruit they ate? Was it the fruit of the awful, nasty sinfulness? No, man, it's a fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Really? There's a fruit for that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, why not? So, I'm sounding like a mocker, and I don't mean to be mocking. I'm just saying, you don't have to look too closely at that story, or too critically at that story, to kind of go, maybe that's not meant to be taken literally. Perhaps, in fact, it's a beautiful allegory for not only the creation of the world, but the evolution of mankind. Perhaps what we're reading as history is actually poetry or morality tale or something along these lines. The other thing I want to talk about real quickly, sorry, I know I'm at 5 minutes, and who has that kind of an attention span? The other thing I want to talk about real quickly is science. I don't know if you've ever heard of Deus Ex Machina. Not sure, it's Latin, and I don't know Latin. But anyway, it's God from the machine. And in the ancient theater, when an author had painted their heroes and heroines into a horrible corner, such that the result could only ever be, terrible fiery death, he would then lower a deity from the ceiling, supposedly out of heaven, but essentially a deity coming down out of the ceiling on a crane, who would kind of wave his hands and make everything all right. To me, introducing an all-powerful, all-knowing actor into your scientific model kind of creates that same problem. You can get awfully lazy with your scientific model if you're willing to kind of wave your hand and say, well, God did that. I just don't think, in the same way that there's no place in a mathematics class for, I don't know, interior design. That's probably a bad example, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just not sure there's a place in the science class for God. Well, let me take that back. There is. It is my hope that you have all taught your children to pray, and that when your children are sitting in science class, they're praying for their friends, they're praying for their enemies. They're praying for the kids who aren't doing well, they're praying for the kids that are doing well, praying for themselves, praying for you, praying for the teacher, praying for the whole thing. And it is my hope that their faith is strong enough and their understanding of science deep enough that they know that they don't have to give up their faith because of science, and they don't have to give up their science because of faith. Science can't talk about things that it can't measure. And as of today, can't measure God. That doesn't mean that anything science can't measure doesn't exist. Once upon a time, we couldn't measure radio waves. Clearly, they exist. Once upon a time, we couldn't measure bacteria. Clearly, they exist. My guess is that if I could be around 200 years from now, there are all sorts of things we don't know about today that will be proven to exist. But really, all we can do is speculate about them based on what a model we have predicts until we find some way to observe them. So, in short, too late. I'm at 8 minutes and 30 seconds, way longer than I intended to go. Don't give up your faith because of science. Don't give up your science because of faith. But quit trying to put your faith in the science class. It doesn't belong there. Teach your kids to understand science and to understand why it's great and why we need it and why we need more of it and why the scientific method is one of the greatest things invented since the flush toilet. That's not true. Actually, I think it was invented before the flush toilet. But anyway, that it's fantastic and they need to understand it. But then also teach them its limitations. Science, I don't want to say it can't talk about certain things, but it's not very good at talking about certain things. And one of those things it's not very good at talking about is the potential existence of a deity. So, don't give up your science because of faith. Don't give up your faith because of science. And don't get your knickers in a twist when somebody's trying to make you do one or the other.